bob haircut and a shot of good booze. Hurry now, sweet daddy, come blow your horn. If you come too late, sweet mama will be gone. Come along, young man, everything's setting right. My husband going away till next Saturday night. Hurry now, sweet daddy, come blow your horn. If you come too late, sweet mama will be gone. Now I'm wearing a gold, got red shoes on my feet. My mind is sitting right for a tin Lizzie's seat. Hurry now, sweet daddy, come blow your horn. If you come too late, sweet mama will be gone. Red rooster said, cock-a-doodle-doo-doo. The Richard woman said, any dude will do. Hurry now, sweet daddy, come blow your horn. If you come too late, sweet mama will be gone. Hey everybody, great to see you, and thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. So, I've missed this little show last week, not doing the show and things, but I've just been so busy. So, it's great to be back with you, and I really do appreciate you taking the time out to join me tonight. That's really great to see you all back here. I think we've got a lot of people here, which is really great. Yeah, I can see all the usual people are here, and perhaps Boom as a new face as well, which is great. Okay, so we've got Leo here, we've got Julie, Ferrari, Palmer, we've got Ernie as well, and Paul Hilliker, 3230 Blues as well. So we've got quite a few people coming along, and I think our little audience and our kind of little group is growing week on week, so that's really nice. I'd just like to say a special thank you to Tim Carr and Terry Cook, who made donations last week, which is really helpful. As you know, I've kind of had all my work cancelled for this year. I thought that I might have been doing some work with the pubs opening up and things like that, but I've recently had it confirmed that it's not looking like I am going to be playing again this year, which is really, really disappointing. But what I'm going to try and do is make the most of it and do a few gigs for you guys, because you've been tremendously supportive to me during this lockdown period. And for that, I'm extremely grateful to you. So I'm hoping in a fortnight's time that I'll be able to do a gig. Now, I'll either be doing that solo, or I may try and draft Al in. You may have met Al before on some of my previous Joe shows to do the gig with me. So it'll either be a solo or a duo gig, and that's in a fortnight's time. So as I say, thanks to Tim and Terry for making that donation. Really helpful. Generally speaking, anything that comes my way during these shows and gigs and things like that, try and reinvest a lot of that back into what I'm doing and things. So what I'm going to actually do with the donation Terry's made tonight is buy a new blackboard, a bigger blackboard, so we can have a better kind of play along and things like that when we have a strum along. If I've got a bigger blackboard and things, I think that will really help, because I can write out some of the chord progressions and things like that, and it might make it a little bit simpler for those of you who are struggling to kind of follow along and things like that. So I've got a lot of ground to cover today because I've had a lot of questions. I'd just like to point out that for anybody who's making like requests and things like that, it's kind of helpful if it's something that you've heard over the previous shows, because if it's something that I haven't played, then I need a little bit of time to take a look at it, obviously, and try and do something with it, because there were a few suggestions over the last couple of days, and I just simply haven't had the time to sit down and have a look at them. So if that's something that you'd like me to do, make sure those suggestions or requests for songs come in early to give me a chance to try and address those, because I'd really like to do that. But moving on with what we're talking about today, I've had a lot of questions for this week's Joe Show. So that's really nice, because, you know, the more questions I have, I feel like the more I'm helping you. I know a lot of you kind of enjoy me just playing and things like that. So I think you kind of probably enjoy most elements of the show. So the play along, our little chat and things like that, a few songs thrown in. So I think we've got a relatively good blend. But I'm always up to suggestions, so I really do urge you to try and comment after these videos have been uploaded, because I do go back and look at them and kind of reread over all your comments when I get a chance and things like that, just in case anybody's made some kind of suggestion that I might have missed and might have slipped through the net. So I'd just like to say a few hellos. Generally, I'll say a little bit of goodbyes first. So we've got David Howard. Okay, I think you're new here, David, or maybe you've been here a couple of times before. If I know any Big Bill Broonzy tunes, Key to the Highway, I certainly do, David. And so I don't want to say this all through the show, but for anybody who's not too sure, I do have a Patreon page as well as a YouTube page. So David, if you're interested in Big Bill Broonzy, there's a lot of that kind of stuff over on my Patreon page, where you're kind of helping me out at the same time as well. Now, just a quick update on that type of thing. I think I'm up to around about 280 patrons, and my target is 300 patrons. So if you're not already a patron, please go and check that out and have a look, because not only will you find lots of exclusive material, but you'll also be helping me reach my little goal, and as a result of that, produce more content for you. Okay. So, yeah, and I'm working, funnily enough, David, I'm working on a new Big Bill Broonzy for Patreon. So there's already some stuff over there, Key to the Highway, Stump Blues. There's quite a lot there. So if you're interested in that, as I say, check out. There's a link down below, so that's absolutely fine. Palmer, I do mean 500, but I've got to get to 300 first. So that's why you know, that's the way it is. Hey Peter, great to see you. So we've got Peter Braidwood as well. It's really nice to see you, Peter, and David, and any new people who have come along as well. I think it's in dollars, Peter, the Patreon, and so the cheapest tier is $5. And when you think about it, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Price of a cup of coffee per month, and you've got more material. You could spend a lifetime, honestly, no exaggeration, not far off it. There is over 300 lessons there. So, you know, that's kind of, there's plenty of material over there, but it's in dollars, yeah? Okay, so Leadbelly, great to see you, Katie, and Leo as well, and Patricia, how nice to see you. I hope you're doing really well as well, okay? So let me move on now to a few little things that you may find useful. I don't know where Julie is tonight, Patricia. I was hoping Julie was with us. Renee van der Torre, nice to see you here with us. So I'd like to just start out by saying, get a pen and paper ready, have your guitar tuned up. Pen and paper is very important until I get this blackboard sorted, because I'm going to be asking you to scribble out a few chords for our play along, for those of you who are interested in doing that, okay? Now then, what I'm going to come to next is, I've had a lot of questions about plectrum technique, these little fellas, and you know, what is a good technique, just a kind of more like a kind of global bit of information, just an all-round bit of information on lots of different topics that might help you, okay? So let's start out with strumming. Now, when you're strumming on the guitar, it's very, very important that you use a very, very soft plectrum, okay? Because when people are starting out strumming and things like that, strangely enough, they tend to use people can tend to use a very firm plectrum like this one, okay? There's not a lot of give in it. So what that means is when you're strumming, is it got a very hard sound. And that's not really something that you're looking for when you're starting out with your strumming. So if you're kind of having issues and you feel like everything's a little bit hard, because when you're starting out, things are a little bit clunky. You haven't got that smoothness down. It takes a while to do that. And so a hard plectrum really won't help you get there, okay? So my kind of rule, if you like, on plectrums, and of course it will differ for everybody, but I'll just put it out there, my kind of 5 cents worth of what I do and what I've found to be useful with my students and things like that. So if you're using a hard plectrum, okay, that's for all your single note stuff, you know, you kind of. So all your kind of single note solo-y stuff, then you're looking for something quite firm. You don't want something with too much give in it, because you can end up just kind of missing notes and underplaying notes and all this type of thing. Okay, so for solo work, use something relatively thickish. For rhythm work, use something thinner. All right, so if you're strumming them with something thin, it just has that inherent kind of smoothness to it. Yeah, so there's a lot more give in it, and so it's a lot more forgiving. Yeah, so use a thin one for your strumming and a thicker one for your single note stuff. Yeah. Now, another question that I get asked quite a lot is how hard to hold the plectrum. It's one of those things, it's very much trial and error. Obviously, yeah, kind of goes without saying a little bit. What I tend to suggest is try and hold it as loosely as you can and work backwards from there, if that makes sense. Yeah, so what we're looking to do is hold it very softly. So you might find that when you're kind of playing, you hold it so softly that you kind of drop it and you kind of keep dropping it a little bit. So if that's the case, then you're tightening up your grip a little bit. But we're doing it very, very gradually. It's very important to just not go from just holding it very slightly to just grabbing onto it for dear life. That's not really what we're looking to do. What we're really aiming for is to try and hold it so we don't drop it, just tight enough so we don't drop it. Now, we're all going to hold it very differently. If you're interested in how I hold it, I kind of just put my thumb over the top of it and I kind of have it like so, a little bit sticking out like so. Yeah, so there's no real golden rules, because everybody's just going to find their own way of holding the plectrum. But for a general rule, try and hold it as softly as you can when you're strumming. That's the important thing. And if you find that you keep dropping it, then just ever so slightly try and increase your grip on the plectrum. So I hope that you find that a little bit helpful, and that helps you in a small way, because there was a lot of questions coming over this last fortnight about how tight to hold it, how loose to hold it, what type of plectrums to use for different things. So going back to what I was saying about a soft plectrum, okay, let me just check this one out. I always forget what one it is. This really is my go-to plectrum. If I've got this, I can get by in most situations. Now, I know that sounds kind of quite contradictory, because I've said a soft one isn't very good for lead work. But if I'd come out the house and I only had one, I'd want this one, because I do probably more strumming in a live situation than lead stuff. Now, what you're looking for is a 0.60 mil. All right, so that's what I'm using if you're interested. And obviously they go up. So the next one up is this one here, which is and these are Jim Dunlop plectrums as well. Okay, so just the standard size really, Peter, I'm using, to be honest, just your standard ones. And these are US nylon Jim Dunlop, and I find these really good. Okay, so moving up, the next one up, I think this is an 8.88 mil. Now that's a nice one for strumming and solo work. Okay, but you're probably, if you know anything about plectrums, you'll know that these are quite, both of them are quite soft. And once you go up to about 1 mil, then they start getting firmer for your lead work, okay? So that's your little lesson on plectrums for the week. So I hope that was helpful. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird flies. Blackbird flies into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird flies. Blackbird flies into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to arise. You were only waiting for this moment to rise. Little bit of blackbird. There's been a lot of blackbirds in my garden lately, so that just sprung to mind. And it's a lovely little tune. If you're ever looking to get started on the finger picking things, it's a really, really nice tune. And just remember, we all know what the golden rule is by now. It's just about enjoying the journey rather than kind of feeling that we need to get somewhere. Because, you know, it's very, very common with guitar playing and things like that for people to want to get somewhere very, very quickly. It's completely understandable. I was the same. I wanted to be doing things I couldn't do and I wasn't ready to do and things like that. But when you start kind of just enjoying the journey and things, the whole thing takes on a new complexion and you're just enjoying what you're doing as you're doing it. That's the important thing. If you keep doing that on a daily basis, you'll get to where you want to get to. So it's a good way of looking at things, to just enjoy what you're playing and things like that, and try not to become too frustrated with things. I think that's really important as well, because that's one of the kind of key things when you're starting out on guitar. It's quite easy to get frustrated, and we want to avoid that at all costs if we possibly can. Okay, so just try and enjoy what you're doing and realize that, you know, you're going to have some limitations and things are going to take a little while to get on top of, but you can do all this stuff I'm doing. I'm here to kind of try and inspire you as much as anything to keep on going with your guitar journey, because it's like a friend for life. It's like one of those things you can do when things are really good or really bad or really indifferent. It's just a great thing to be able to do. So you must continue to do what you're doing, irrespective of how you're feeling about your progress and things. Okay? Just a little bit of inspirational talk for you there. All right, so now another thing I wanted to touch on. Okay, we've got a few more people here. We've got Richard Brewer, that's great, yeah. And we've got Scott Hartley. It's nice to see you, Scott. Great to see you on board. I'm fairly sure you've just become a patron as well, Scott, if I've got that right, and Kev as well. Do I know Freight Train? I think I've got Freight Train down on my Patreon somewhere. I've got a feeling, Kev, if I haven't, it's certainly something I should do. You do, Joe. When You Got a Good Friend was an excellent lesson. Do you know, Jeff, I'm really pleased you said that. I know there's a lot of people heading over to Patreon for the Robert Johnson lessons, and I can see why. That guy was so talented, so talented, and so unlike many other blues players. For many, many reasons. It's something that I was going to talk about because a lot of the people who follow me on YouTube and especially on Patreon blues people, you know, primarily there's a lot of blues people there. And Robert Johnson is one of those people who mixed up so many styles. You know, Big Bill Broonzy, he had a particular style. And I don't like to pigeonhole any of these artists and say they just did one thing. But you can look at these artists and kind of pin them down a little bit into one kind of frame. But Robert Johnson's different in that sense because he played slide, he played lots of kind of strange polyrhythms, as well as standard tunes and things like that. So it's really great to hear that the When You Got a Good Friend went down well, Jeff. I'm really pleased to hear that. And thank you for all those patrons who give me feedback on the videos because it does kind of lead me to where I'm going to go next. So I'm very, very grateful for that, yeah? Now then, plectrum time again, okay? What I wanted to tell some of you about, because I had quite a few emails about people, from people who were struggling to just get things sounding, you know, reasonable. You know, I think I had a few messages which were just saying, you know, I'll be really glad when I can just create some kind of feel to what I'm doing with the strumming primarily. And it's a very, very common thing, so don't feel you're alone in that situation. It's very, very common situation. But over time, it does become a whole lot easier. So, which is why I say keep doing what you're doing. Every time you pick up the guitar, you are improving. Whether it feels like or not, you actually are. Okay, so that's why it's very, very important to do that. Now, one thing, some people come to me for help, not just with guitar, but occasionally with their singing. And understandably, because some of this blues stuff is difficult enough to play without singing. So once you throw the singing into the mix as well, it can be very, very difficult, depending upon what level that you're at. And for people who aren't interested in singing, sometimes they can just struggle with a rhythm. Okay, so I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about this. So, you know, for example, I might play a song, let's say, Just a Perfect Day. Drink sangria in the park, and then later when it gets dark, we go home. Just a perfect day. Feed animals in the zoo, and then later a movie too. Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you. Oh, such a perfect day. You just keep me hanging on. Okay, so let's just kind of take that as an example. Yeah, there you could hear me strumming and probably creating a bit of a feel to the song. So when I'm strumming a song, I'm really, really trying to put some feel into the song, because I'm obviously at the stage where I can run through the chords, I can transition through the chords comfortably. So really the only thing left for me to do is to create a feel. Now that applies to you too, whatever level you're at. Now, just rewinding back a little bit about the folks out there who are struggling to create a rhythm, well, then they're not at the stage where all it's about is feel, you know. Ultimately, they've got to get to a stage where they can just transition through the chords and play something relatively in time. So, my secret weapon for this is to simplify. Always simplify. So you can't do something like I've just done there if you can't do something very basic in time with all the transitioning happening nicely and smoothly. It's going to be a struggle. It's just not going to sound like that. But you know what you can do, and people tend to tend to forget about a little bit, is that you can just simplify these things and give yourself more time, and especially if you're singing, you can give yourself more time for the chord transitions and for the vocal part. Now, I'll show you what I mean. In a song like this, we can make it very, very simple. We don't need to be complicated. We can literally just go, just a perfect day. Drink sangria in the park. And then later, when it gets dark, we go home. Okay, so there, I was just playing one chord, as you could see, on each of those changes. And look at the time that affords me to sing the song. You know, it's given me a great deal of time. So that's always, whenever you're struggling with something, and even if it's just like a 3 chord song or something like that, just break it down to that one strum. Because that's the very, very first thing you need to do. And then once you got that down, you can build on it a little bit. So you might just do a 2 strum. You might go, just a perfect day. Drink sangria in the bar. And then later when it gets dark, we go home. Okay, so what we're doing is, which you can see, we're starting off with the very, very basic thing. The most basic thing we could do, 1 strum. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So if you're still struggling with that, then that's what you need to work on. You need to just, and another thing which many people forget to do perhaps, is to count. Because counting will transform your guitar playing tremendously. And you can immediately hear somebody who doesn't count because their timing is wavering about, you know, all over the place. And that's the first giveaway that somebody's just kind of, in a sense, starting out. So if you're counting and you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Immediately it pulls the song together. And so it's such a simple thing to do. You might think, oh, what are you telling us here, Joe? This is real for babies. But there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with some of the basics. So I really do like to, you know, give a little bit of something for everybody. And so, you know, that's kind of why I'm looking at this thing, to try and give everybody a little bit of a helping hand. So hopefully you'll understand that and bear with me on this. Because it's all very well for us who are further down the road than that, you know, it's you know, we've passed that kind of stage. But I just want to help those of you who are struggling with that type of thing. And by the way, that's a really, really lovely song. So let me just have a little peep on who's on here. We've got Peter Linger, who I haven't seen before, nice, and Ken. Great to see you, Ken. It's been a little while since I've seen you. Andrew Marriott, who is posting many nice videos over on my Facebook group. And I would really, hey, Endelscape, it's great to see you. I think you might be a new viewer, and thank you for joining us. Andrew Marriott is doing some great performances over on Facebook, and these are people who are part of, the Facebook group page. If you're not familiar with that, please go take a look because it's great. There's a lot of people posting, and it gives me an opportunity to view my audience and how they're progressing with the guitar. And I'll often respond to everybody who's making the effort over there to try and get something out and get some feedback on what they're doing, because it's really important. We're building a great community over there, and I just hope that more people will come along and perform. It's great because most people have done that now. I don't want anyone to feel too shy, because the nice thing about just putting your phone on and recording yourself is, theoretically you're only really doing it for yourself whilst you're doing the recording, and then just throw it out there on Facebook for people to have a listen to, because honestly it's such a supportive group of people over there. I'd like to thank everybody over there for doing the posting, for sometimes answering on my behalf, for just being encouraging to the people who are posting, and to Palmer, who was helping me out with the admin over there, and Jeff and Paul and people like that, who are really, helping out with the group over there. So if you haven't visited that, I think it's well worthwhile doing so. It'd be great to have you there as well. We're building a lovely community there. So, yes, so where are we? When a cowboy trades his spares, pretty please. Oh, well, I tell you what, I'll have a look if I've got it here for you, Katie. You'll all have to excuse me for a minute, because you know what? I'm not sure I have, Katie. I actually love it. And the only reason I'm looking for it is the lyrics. I'm kind of fine with the chords, but I can only remember like about 100 songs. And then my memory just starts struggling with it all, really, So if you'll just give me a little moment, I'll see. But I'm not sure I have got it, Katie. I would like to do that for you because it's a lovely song as well. Let me just have a quick look. Just bear with me. Speak amongst yourselves for a moment, folks. I won't be a moment. Let me have a little peep at this, see what I can find here. Sorry about this, folks, but I would just like to do this if I possibly could. It'd be a lovely thing to do. Since you say goodbye after midnight. Yeah, it's not looking good, Katie. It's not looking good. Alright, yeah, unfortunately that doesn't look like it's going to happen today. Are you talking amongst yourselves, folks? I hope so. This is an unusual break for me to have, but hopefully you'll understand. Hopefully you will understand this. I hope I don't come back after all of this lot and... Right, I'm going to bring this over here, and so at least I'm on screen. Now, I want to... Also, whilst I'm just having a little bit of a look for these lyrics for Katie, what I wanted to say was the importance of writing things out. It's really, really important, folks. And I still do it to this day. If I'm learning a song, I always write it out. And it was one of the best little habits I ever got into. Because what it means is now I have my own little kind of system for doing it, and it really helps things stick. So sometimes I like to leave these things for you to fill in the blanks, because I feel if I do everything for you, I don't think you learn quite as much as what you do if you have to write a few things out. So that's my slant on it. Right, it's not looking good, Katie, and I have gone through pretty much everything here, unfortunately. So I think you might be out of luck. But we're not done yet. Okay, and I am open to any questions if you have any questions, folks, okay? So you can always think about that whilst I'm doing this. Yeah, you're out of luck, Katie, unfortunately. Okay, let me just check this here whilst I'm here. George James. Okay, nobody knows you. All right, now, are you all getting ready for a little bit of a play along? Because we're going to be having a play along shortly. I want you to have your guitars ready, in tune, pen and paper. We're not going to mess about today. You know, I want you to try and be ready for this. It'd be good if you are. All right. I'm just going to do a song for Patricia. She likes John Lennon. And so I better do a little bit of John Lennon, else I'll be getting told off. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Hope that was okay for you, Mum. I know you're there. I know you like your John Lennon. So there you have it. A little bit. Hey, Samantha, great to see you. Sam, it's been ages since I've seen you. Hey, Ernie, I haven't learned that one, Ernie, yet. Thanks, Joe. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia. All right, you're very, very welcome. Okay. Do you all have your guitars ready? Because it's play along time. All right. So I hope that you do. I'm going to talk you through this and then we're going to play it. All right. We're going to be playing Alberta. Now, I hope you're not getting too fed up with Alberta, but I do feel it's a nice little song. And I know some of you advanced out guys there. Hey, Brendan, great to see you. And thank you for signing up to the Patreon. Very much appreciated. Lovely for you to join us. Good to see you, Marco. And Samantha, how are you doing? You'll have to tell me in a bit. It's been ages since I caught up with you. And the cat. Try to. Yeah, my fingers are warmed up, Joe. Good, good, good. Okay. So, let me talk you through Alberta. Palmer, I hope you've got your guitar ready, and everybody else out there, okay? We're going to go for a little bit of Alberta from the Unplugged album. Leo, glad to hear you're ready to rock. I want to hear you all coming through the waves, reaching me here on the Isle of Wight. Wonderful. I enjoy this part of the show tremendously, and I want your suggestions for future shows as well. I don't want anybody getting bored with the play-alongs because I'm running through them maybe week on week or something, but I just want to give everybody a chance to play along. I know some of you are a little bit more advanced than this, and I have got something for you more advanced people, you know, out there coming up before the end of the show, so don't worry too much. A couple of little things I thought you might be interested in looking at. We'll come to that soon. Okay, so Alberta, right? What you're looking to do is you're going to play a C. Now, those of you who are a little bit more advanced, I'm kind of guessing you know the deal here, okay? But nevertheless, I'm going to run through the chords. But I'm hoping some of you more advanced people will be putting the little runs in, the little, you know, putting all those little bass runs in. That's your challenge, okay? I'm looking at the beginners here to get them started with this, okay? Air guitar ready there, Patricia? Good to hear it. I want to hear some rocking. Okay, so this song, I'm going to talk you through a verse, and then once you know a verse, you're good to go for the whole song. So it starts out in C and it goes, it has a little intro, which you're going to let me play beginners, more intermediate, you're going to join me, we're going to go. Then you play a C, then a G, then a C, G, C, to an F. Alright? To a C, to a G, to a C, back to G, okay? And then we're going to go C, F. Now if you play an F like I play there, you're going to play F, F minor, so take off the middle finger, and a C. Okay, so just, that's the only little tricky bit. It goes C, F, F minor, and C. Okay, so that's the only little tricky bit. Just try and blag your way through it if you're a bit of a beginner and a little bit struggling. Just play C, F, C. Don't need to worry too much about the minor. Okay, Petula, I'm hoping you're at the ready with your guitar there, okay? I hope we're all ready to roll now, because I love hearing you guys coming through the ether. It's great, okay? Are we ready? Oh, 1, 2. Alberta, where you been so long? On F now, folks. Back to C, where you been so long? G, C, ain't had no loving since you've been gone. Alberta, Alberta, where'd you stay last night? Alberta, Alberta, F, where'd you stay last night? Come home, G, this morning. Back to C, clothes don't feel right. There we go. C, G, C, G, C, C7 and F. Well done. Excellent stuff. Back to C, G, C, G. Lot of changes. And turn around. a fact. Such a great long time. Alberta, Alberta, where you been so long? Alberta, Alberta, well done folks, where you been so long? Ain't had no loving since you've been gone. Once more, C, G, C, C, F, back to C, G. There we go, we're going to wrap it up now. Well done. Big round of applause for you all there. Well done. Absolutely fantastic effort. And I always know when you're at it because there's no comments coming up there. You're all too busy focusing. That was fantastic effort, everybody. Really, really good to have a play along. I've missed those play alongs. I was going to say something then. It's just slipped my mind. Okay, so Palmer asks, what is the finger placement on the F minor chord shape? Seems easier than how I'm doing it. Okay, so many people don't play this F shape, okay? So this F shape I'm going to show you is where you place your index finger on the first fret and you're going to bar those bottom two strings. And then your middle finger goes onto the second fret of the third string. And then these two remaining fingers go on the fourth and fifth strings of the third fret. Now that's an F. The only thing at the moment which is making that different from a bar F is this top note here on the first fret, okay? But the way I get around that is by wrapping my thumb around it, like so. Okay, and we've got an F now, yeah? So how you play an F minor, Palmer, is simply, if you're playing that shape, you're just taking off your middle finger. So major, minor. Does that answer your question? I'm sure it probably does. And I am glad we all sounded good, Patricia, because you are the judge and it's great. Oh, well, that's good, Andrew. It's good. You know, if that's the only F shape you can play, then it's probably one of the most useful ones. Now, if it isn't an F shape that you play, may I make a suggestion that you learn it? Because if you're at all interested in all this kind of country blues stuff that I do, then it's very essential for that kind of thing, yeah? So, for example, the song that I opened with was a song by Mississippi John Hurt, and it's coming to you very shortly on Patreon, and it's called Richland Woman Blues. Now, if you noticed, when I started playing this, we had this kind of... So if you're interested in playing all that kind of stuff, this F shape's really important. Now sometimes you don't always use these two fingers, right? The ring finger and the little finger. Sometimes you can just, depending on which strings you're playing, you can just play like a partial F. Can you see there? So I'm not playing the fifth string essentially. That's the only thing that's different. Because sometimes I'll alternate and my ring finger will go like that. See, going from the fourth to the fifth string like so. So this is another little thing for you to practice for all you finger pickers out there, okay? When you're playing that F shape, try and get into the habit of this ring finger dancing between the strings. So in this case, when we're playing the F, it's the 4th and the 5th. On the C, it's 5 and 6. And another little suggestion for you, this is a great little thing to practice. Try and practice that alternating bass. Because if you do that, you're easing yourself into playing a lot of this country blues. So if you've never tried it before and you think, wow, I'd love to play that kind of stuff, then a good way into being able to play it is to just get into the habit of playing a C and going. So the ring finger's just going from the 5th string to the 6th string on the 3rd fret. That's all that's happening, and I'm kind of brushing. The important thing is the 5, 6. When you go to the F, 4, 5, 4, 5, and on the G you can just hold the G and play either 4, 6. So this is something you definitely want to spend some time doing if you're interested in country blues. It comes into so much. Now then, what I'd like to do next is I'd like to do something for the intermediate players. Okay, so for those of you who are getting pretty decent on the guitar, okay? Now you know I like the Robert Johnson stuff, and it would appear that a lot of you do too as well. Now, at some point further down the road, I'm thinking of taking a look at 3220 blues or 3020 blues, whatever it is. And it's really nice. So what I want to do is I want to give you a heads up on this. So the likes of Jeff and Paul and all the other people who are like really enjoy that bluesy stuff. Now, before I get started, as I say, this is a little bit for the Robert Johnson fans and things like that. Now, if you haven't watched my blues tips over on Patreon, you really want to do yourself a favor and watch those. I've done 3 parts, parts 1, 2 and 3. Part 1 is available on YouTube if you want a little bit of a taster as to what's involved, but it's going to help you tremendously with all this Robert Johnson blues stuff. Okay, so if that's your thing, then you need to check out those blues tips, parts 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so all you Robert Johnson-y fans, you know this shape, right? So you know this, right? I'm not going to go into all the whys and kind of what it is right now, because it's for the intermediate people, so I'm guessing you're kind of going to know these shapes. And if you don't, you can go check out those blues tips, and it's kind of, a lot of this is explained. So 3220's got this kind of okay, so you're looking at those shapes, then walk it down. D, A, walk it down. D, walk it down. E. So you got that walk down, you all know that. The intermediate people, a lot of you know this. And then you're going up to your high A. So just wanted to put that out there for you, because if you run through that and you practice that little progression, you're going to be 80% of the way there. So when it comes to the lesson, you're going to be ahead of the game. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. Okay, one more time slowly. You know this A position, then the diminished, back up. Now what's important with this bluesy stuff that I do, you know, a lot of the bluesy stuff, whether it's the big Bill Brucey, whatever it is, that solid bass is what kind of makes or breaks it. So it's really interesting. Sorry, I should say very important to try and get that solid, because even if it's slow and you're going, see, slow is still good if it's in time. Then you can speed it up. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there, because I feel I'm doing a lot for the beginners in these Joe shows and things like that, and not always covering something for you guys to get your teeth into. So I wanted to put that out there. Yeah, hopefully you're going to follow all of that. If you've got any questions, drop them below this video. Once it's uploaded, I'll be only too happy to help you out. Wow, so let's just take a little, hold on a second, let me just see how we're doing, because I've got a feeling time's running away with us as per usual. Yeah, I mean, wow, I can't believe it, the hour is already gone. Okay, but I've still got some things I want to cover, so that's what we're going to do. Let me come back here to my little bits of notes and things like that. Okay, I'd like to have another play along. Is everybody up for another play along? Could we do another play along? Do you want another play along before I sign off and stuff like that? I'll wait for you to answer me, because there's a little bit of lag my end, because when I'm looking at the comments, they're kind of generally about 30 minutes behind. So we've got Patrice and Joel, I think they're up for it. Where's Katie and where's everybody else? Jeff's there as well. Good, 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 good. So I was expecting a few more yeses. We've got Mick, we got Jeff, we got Patrice, we got Joel. Where's Leo? Where is everybody? Paul's ready, the cat's ready, John's ready, Terry's ready. That's better. Leo, okay, good. Kev, yeah, now we're talking. Wolfman, this is better. This is much better. George, Patricia, Ring of Fire, Ernie. Well, I couldn't ask for more than that. Waggy, Palmer, Petulia. Okay, so how about a bit of Lead Belly then? Should we do a little bit of Goodnight Irene? Or is everybody up for that? No? Yeah? Yeah? All right, let's go for a little bit of Goodnight Irene then, yeah? So we got... You remember this one? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just again going to talk the beginners through this. I know you advanced people, I'm expecting you to do, you know, all these little bass runs and things. So Ernie and Palmer, I want to see you trying to do these little bass runs as well. Okay, so, and in fact there's lots, Jeff certainly, Paul, a lot of you guys can do this, okay? Great, Brendan. I'm glad you're on board with this as well. Okay, so for the beginners out there, starts in A to E. Hold the E to A. So I'm just talking you through before we get started. Holds the A a while. To D7, to E7, to A. I'm going to do it one more time for you. You got A, E7. Okay? Good to hear you here, Boomer and Petula. A. That's alright. To the D7. E7. You got it? Alright, so that's what we're talking about here. We've got A to E, back to A for a short while, and then to D7, then E7, then back to A. So this is where your pen and paper comes in really handy. Really is a good little thing to have a little pad by you, and then not only have you got it during the show, then after the show's finished and things, if you want to kind of continue on with it, then you've got a few little notes to go with, all right? So, are we ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Here we go. Gambling, speed it up a little bit. Stop staying out late at night. Go home to your wife and family. Sit down by the fireside bright. All together. Sometimes I live in the town. Sometimes I have a great notion to jump in the river and drown. All together. Irene, good night. Bit quicker now. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I get you in my dreams. One more time, yeah, around the block. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I get you in my dreams. Well done again. Well done again. Well done again. Lovely stuff, okay? God, I've got a really itchy nose going on there. Isn't that just typical? Right in the middle of a tune. Oh, wow. I just don't know where the time's gone, folks. I really don't. It just goes too quickly. So... got an album for the album of the week for you this week. We've missed it a couple of times these last few Joe shows, but it's surprising how little music I listen to these days. I'm so busy playing songs or learning songs or things like that I tend to focus in on what it is I'm trying to learn or play, and I just don't listen to kind of quite as much music as I used to. So please feel free to post all your suggestions over on the Facebook group page, because there's a lot of people out there who'd be interested, including myself, to know what all you're listening to and the kind of things that you like. And again, all of these things can shape the future lessons. So it's well worth you taking the time to make a posting there. Now, my album of the week is Rough and Rowdy by Bob Dylan. It's a new album by Bob Dylan. I believe he's the oldest person ever to have a number one album with this album. It's typical late Bob Dylan stuff, you know. I mean, I've liked his more. I always preferred Bob Dylan's latter material than all the early stuff people really loved, you know. With the exception, I mean, obviously there are tracks from way back that I really like, but I really like the later Bob Dylan stuff, just for me personally. Now, this is really, it's got some lovely tracks on it. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, I suppose, if it depends whether or not you like Bob Dylan or not. But I've been listening to it a little bit whilst I've been working and things like that, and there's some nice tracks on it, so you might like to check that out. Now, one more point that I'd like to address before I finish off, which was another question which was asked of me, was relating to whether or not to play with a guitar strap. And it's a very, very good question. So, Ernie, thank you very much for that question. I'm sure this is going to be helpful to many, many people, because it's just one of those things people are very unsure about, you know, how important that is. Now, I think the important thing here is that when you, it depends what your goals are and things like that. So if I ever play an electric guitar, I have a strap, because when I played in a band, a rock band, obviously you're standing up, so playing with a strap is a completely different experience to playing like I'm playing now. Now, it's very interesting because the really most kind of iconic acoustic performances, and by that I mean things like Stevie Ray Vaughan's concert on Unplugged, Eric Clapton's Unplugged concert, Jimi Hendrix, Mystery, Hear a Train a Comin', things like that. All these guys are sat down for very good reason, because you don't stand up and play that kind of stuff. If you're playing an acoustic and you're playing it for your own pleasure, then a strap isn't too important. But if you have any ambitions whatsoever of playing out live, it's handy to get used to playing with a strap. Now, if I go out and I play an acoustic gig, I'm never going to stand up. I did, when I was in the band, switch guitars between acoustic and electric. And so obviously in a band situation, like I say, you stand up irrespective of what you're playing. And the important point, like Ernie makes here about whether or not to use a strap, is that if you haven't used a strap and you stand up and try and play with a strap, you're going to find it a real challenge. So if it's something that you aspire to doing, doesn't matter whether it's 5 years down the road or a couple of years down the road, whatever it might be, if you feel that you fit into that category, then certainly, and I would also say with the electric guitar, you know, most importantly, then definitely use a strap and get used to using a strap, because it's very different when you're stood up and you're trying to do all this bar chord stuff and solo stuff with a strap on. So that's why I wanted to mention that. Very, very important point to make, I think. So thanks for that question, Ernie. And I hope that that answers the question in a general way. Well, folks, I'm just really glad that you've taken the time out to join me, because I enjoy this every bit as much as you do. It really is a pleasure to spend some time with you, and to have you keep coming back week after week is very flattering for me to have your company. And I hope that that continues. Like I say, anybody who wants to make a donation, it's absolutely fine. I don't want anybody to feel obliged. I certainly don't expect anything. But as I say, I do plow it back into things, and you know, things I'd like to do and develop on the show. So this kind of thing here helps me, especially on the Joe Show. I'd like to thank all my patrons who have made this whole experience of giving lessons online a reality, because without you patrons, I just simply couldn't do what I'm doing at the moment. You've helped me out tremendously, and I'm extremely grateful to you for that. I really do appreciate your support, as I'm sure you're all aware. So thank you very much indeed for that. Now, with regard to the next show, as I say, there's not going to be a show next week. I've just got so much on at the moment, and so many things I'm trying to cover for the patrons. I'm trying to keep that material coming your way. So it means making certain sacrifices. But in a fortnight's time, I'm coming back with a gig, and I'm really, really looking forward to that. So I hope you'll join me for that. Again, there's going to be updates regarding the gig over on the Facebook group page. There's going to be updates on the YouTube page. There's going to be updates on the Patreon page. So however you follow me, you're going to be hopefully updated about that situation. You should get to know about that. Okay, and for anybody new here who hasn't been along before, then please take the time to check out my Patreon page, because I really could use your support. You're helping me do more and more and more by joining up and supporting me in the work that I do. Okay, so now it's time to say a few goodbyes to everybody. I'd like to take the trouble to do that for everybody who's taken the time to tune in. So here goes. This is the part of the show where I race through everybody's name. So as I say, thanks guys for watching. Really do appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to coming back with that gig. And so if you've got any requests, again, just contact me and let me know what those are, especially if they're things that, you know, I've played in the previous shows or lessons or anything like that, because obviously that's a little bit quicker for me to get together. Okay, so here we go. Willem, great to see you here. Patrice, thank you very much indeed for joining us, as well as Waggy and Paul Hilliker. Okay, Michael de Carriere, or I think that is, bye. Thank you for joining us. Palmer, thank you for joining me. Petulia, thank you. Andrew Marriott, keep those videos coming. Mick31, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Julie Flower, thank you. Leo Gibson, thanks for everything you do, Leo. You've helped me in a number of ways. I really appreciate that. I do follow up on your suggestions. Jeff, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I hope it's not too basic for you, Jeff, in some of the things I cover, along with many of the intermediate players here. Jonathan Impens, thank you very much for joining me. Super Ring of Fire. Patricia Murphy, thank you very much indeed. Stuart Rushton, thank you. I'd also like to thank Ernie Young and Ken Tyrrell and Bob Williams. And Brendan, thank you very much for joining us, Brendan, and for your patron support. David Price, that's Bolton Dave, thank you. George James, Jeff, of course. I'm glad that you're enjoying this kind of stuff as well. And the cat, and that's Jake. It's always, thanks for reminding me, Jake. I always know who you are, once you say, from Kalamazoo. I love the sound of that place. Patrice, thank you very much indeed. Is there anybody I've forgotten there? I don't know if Katie's gone now, or Samantha's gone, but there's quite a few had to go, I guess. Ken, I didn't get to hear your idea, but Julie seems to think it's a good one. So thanks again, folks. I think I've covered everybody. So you all take care and have a great weekend. Really look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you very much indeed. Take care.